What's up, Internet Land? This is Zachamus Prime, aka Zachamus Prime, here with another Transformers third-party review. Yeah, third party. And today this review is brought to you by titanonetoys. Oh man, I've got like dust or something on my card. Maybe I'll have to get a new one. titanonetoys. titanonetoys is awesome, guys. I have not met anybody who's had a bad experience from them. Today we're going to be reviewing the XTransbots Savant. Hopefully he doesn't ninja too well into my background since he's basically the same color. Savant is XTransbots' take on a third-party skids. And that's actually pretty good because nobody's taken on skids yet. And so those of you who are trying to collect all of the cars that came out in 1984, this is probably like the last one that y'all have left. So probably everybody's going to go and pick up a Savant. And then when Fans Toys comes out with one, and actually I don't know if Fans Toys is ever coming out with one. And when Mastermind Creations comes out with one, and I don't know, Mastermind Creations is focusing on something else. I don't know if anybody's going to make another one. But this figure is actually pretty good. I've heard some good things about it. I've heard some bad things about it. There's some parts about it that I don't particularly enjoy, but they're minor overall. And so, like, overall, I can definitely give this figure a thumb up. Yeah, this is a pretty decent figure. It seems like, and I know somebody's probably going to ignore what I'm actually saying and just, complain to me anyhow, but it seems like XTransbots is getting better at making toys. Like the last few releases I've handled from them have been pretty decent. I will not say that they are like amazing or excellent, but they are pretty decent. The XTransbots Crack-Up was good. The XTransbots... Oh, what else did I handle from them recently? I seem to recall handling something else from them recently that was actually pretty decent too. But yeah, he looks really clean from all sides. Like even on the back, he doesn't really have, this sticks out, but I think that's kind of how his G1 toy looked anyhow. His arms aren't coming out from the underside of his chest like this, like it was in some of the animation models. I haven't actually seen the episode that he's in, so forgive me on that one. But I think we can forgive all of that. But yeah, legs are a bit chunky, but I think that's all right. Especially since it makes such a good alt mode too. Some of these little functions of his posability are a bit weird, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that when I get into that. First of all, let's talk about accessories. He comes with his little gun here, which is just like a little pistol thing. And it's kind of odd because it fits into his hand on this little handle, but it also slots into his forearm. So he's got a handle, but even if he's not holding it, it's still not going anywhere. So he's got his gun that he can hold there. He's got a corresponding tab on the other side where he's got this gun here, which is this double blaster thingamajig, and that will fit on the front of his arm. And that's got no handle, so he just kind of holds his arm out. I kind of wish that it plugged onto the side of his arm. I know that's not animation or cartoon or comic book accurate or whatnot, but I kind of like to put his hand sideways like that. So he's got this kind of like Dr. Horrible, freeze-ray thing going on. And then his last accessory is this stupid little motorcycle. This cracks me up so much, by the way, because as you know, like with all G1 figures, this is based off of a real vehicle. This is a real vehicle that you'd actually buy in Europe in the 80s. And this motorcycle was a legitimate accessory that you could get with it. It's just a stupid little motorcycle, and it's designed to fit in the trunk of your vehicle so that, I don't know, you like go out driving and you get someplace and you're like, man, you know what I really need? I really need to like tool around the roads on this like a little shitty moped. And so you could take it out and it's like, it's like a little motorcycle with like no size, no guts, no anything. It's got a tiny little motor and a tiny little like everything, but like it's legitimately a thing that you could get. And so at the same time, I'm like, man, this is such a stupid little accessory, because as an accessory, it doesn't even do anything. It just, you fold it up just like you do for the real one, and you stick it in the back of the car just like you do for the real one. But it doesn't like, turn into an accessory or like a gun or a weapon or something like that. No, it just folds up and you stick it in the trunk. So on the one hand, I'm like, it's super cool that they included it. But on the other hand, I'm like, man, that's freaking retarded. So I'm going to stick that aside because it doesn't do anything. And let's take his weapons off, and I'm going to get down to transformation. Sorry, let's talk about the posability of him. That's what I meant to say. His head is on a ball joint, so it will rotate freely, look up quite a bit, it'll wiggle just a little bit. Look up and down actually pretty good. He also has the additional transformation joint, which helps him look like way up. But then you start getting kind of ridiculous, and I don't know if you want to get ridiculous. His shoulders are weird because we're so used to there being some sort of rotational compound joint here, and there's not. So, like, there's a pin that holds this all in place, but the pin does not rotate, and it doesn't bend, and it doesn't do anything. It just, if there's some rotation on it, it would feel a little more natural, but it doesn't. It's got a joint that comes out here, and it's got a very softly detented joint in here. But there's no rotation inherent in this. There's no, so like, you can't like tilt his arm out when he's holding something, There is a bicep swivel, but when you grab it, it likes to turn this joint here, which is a transformation joint. There are tiny little detents that this clips into that don't hold worth beans. So you kind of got to hold his forearm when you bend his bicep swivel. It's okay, but it's a bit of an awkward joint. But I mean, we can deal with some awkward joints. We've certainly all been in Transformers long enough. He does have a bicep joint here. It is really stiff. As I say, it's stiffer than this joint here. So if you don't support his upper arm, you're going to bend things all around like so. He has a single jointed elbow, but it is a pretty deep joint. You can see here it's well over 90 degrees. And that's nice. Wrist swivel. Hand opens like this. His hands are molded in red plastic. Actually, this is all red plastic here, and even these little struts back here. And it looks pretty good. Mostly he's molded in plastic, actually. He does, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, just a tiny bit. He's got a waist joint here. He's got a dedicated ab crunch, a pretty deep ab crunch. It's not a very tight ab crunch, especially with the weight of his feet. He just kind of flops around a little bit, so it might be a little tricky to pose that. Or you can tighten it up with some like furniture polish or whatnot. But it's not bad. His legs will move all the way forwards, all the way back, full Van Damme. He has a double jointed knee. So he's got a double jointed knee. They're both ratcheted. Ooh, you'll find that the lower joint is looser than the top joint, which is fine for most of your posability. If you take and hold this and brace it, then you can bend that top joint and then get some pretty deep range when you combine the two. Like that's really decent range right there. It's going to give you a little bit of a headache getting in and out because that upper joint is much stiffer than the lower joint. I did mention that he had a bicep swivel, maybe? Or the leg bicep. Yeah, that's what they call it. The thicep? No, I'm not Theo. His ankle joint will tilt like all the way that way. It's on this like multiple joint, so you can get some posability outwards, inwards. It's on this joint structure here is designed to tilt forward a bit. No, not while it's in this mode. When it comes out, you've got some posability on the foot itself. Some enhanced posability, and this little guy here, it moves for transformation, but you can move it for posing as well. It works out great. One of the things that is kind of awkward about the figure is it always feels to me like his door wings are, instead of being straight out or maybe even angling up a little bit, it'd be nice if they angled up a little bit. They come just like straight out, and so if you're looking at him from like straight on, or maybe you feel like you're looking at him from slightly less than straight on, they look like they droop. And they don't actually droop. They're just with the angle of, you know, the waist joint combined with the bicep joint combined with, you know, anything else, you can get his chest at an upward angle. It's really easy to do. And then if you have the wings back a bit and you look at it from the front, it looks like they're drooping, but they're not actually. You're just looking at his chest at a funny angle. So, but yeah, his posability is all good. It's all mostly molded in color. You've got this lighter blue for the arms and the knees. That's actually show accurate. This darker blue for most everything else. All of the external car panels are this beautiful, like deep metallic blue, and that looks great. But anyhow, let's get him transformed up. The first thing you want to do is you want to focus on the arms. So we're going to work our way down to the arms. We're going to start with the head, flip that in. This part right here is probably the most obnoxious part of this whole transformation, because it feels just shady as hell, and it's not actually, but it sure as hell feels shady. You've got these two little tiny tabs right here, and they gotta like tuck underneath, and it's scary pulling them out, and it's like annoying putting them in. And really, when you're putting them in, you kind of like press and like bend the things out of the way. And you gotta apply like more force than you think than you're comfortable with. And it's a part of the transformation that I wish that they had done in a different way. And you know that there's other ways that they could have done it. Okay, that's actually amazing. Usually when I'm on camera, I have a harder time than normal, but today was an easier time than normal. I'm going to take this opportunity to show you what it looks like getting it out. They tell you to just kind of hold this and bend it, and hold this and just like kind of bend this, and it works. And I transformed it several times now and inspected the tabs each time, and there's no stressing on them, and there's no breakage on them, and it just, every time it seems like a miracle, and yet every time it works just fine. So on the one hand, like, I hate that they have it transform like that, but on the other hand, it seems to be well enough engineered that somebody knew what they were doing. So yeah, but anyhow, so we're going to take this and we're going to rotate this part up, and we're going to get into the arm transformation. The arm transformation basically requires the use of a spudger, and I wish it didn't, but it basically does. You're going to straighten out the arm, make sure his fist is bent down like that. You're going to eventually rotate this all the way around, but we need to start by rotating it 90 degrees out, like so. You'll see that there's a groove. Let's see if we can actually see that. There's this groove on one part of his joint, and you got to move it so that you've got this slot here. You can get a spudger in here and undo this tab This tab is what helps keep that arm together. Now you can bring it, I guess, no, we've already done it. We can just take it the rest of the 180 degrees. So then you're going to unclip this. You're going to rotate this all the way, whoops, yeah, all the way around. No, let me get this in the right position. You're going to then fold this up like that. You're going to unclip this, rotate this all the way around, and reclip that down here. This panel is going to fold out. This panel is going to fold out. And then this whole thing is going to bend on this. When we've unclipped this, this unclips a new joint right here, and that's going to come around like that. And this panel here has got a tab that's going to come around behind that shoulder strut. And then this panel here is going to fold down flat. There's this tab here that we undid. You kind of got to rotate this at the bicep until it goes into, you'll see there's a little slot in here. It's going to fit into that slot and then rotate back into place. It is all terribly convoluted, but it works. It's funny because functionally, it seems like it's much more simpler than, like, say, what's his name? That cliff jumper that I reviewed last week. Like, his arms were super complicated, but they seem to be pretty well. This one is not as complicated, but it feels more complicated. Last but not least, there is this joint right here. It's going to slide down, and it's kind of a chore. There we go. But it comes in like that. Now we're going to do the same with the other side. Rotate that. Rotate this 90 degrees. Get our spudger, unclip that tab. Rotate it another 90 degrees. Bring it all the way up. We're going to unclip this, rotate it around. Put that in there. Reclip that. Open up this panel and this panel. Bring this all the way around. And then push this down. Yeah. There we go. These two things are going to connect up. You've got corresponding tabs and slots in here. They're going to tab together, and it's going to clip in right there. And I forgot a step. God damn it. There are two armor panels that keep the side view mirrors underneath here. They're going to come out on this little double joint and snap into place there. Again with the other side. You kind of want to flex this. Again, another thing that I don't really like, but you kind of got to. Flex that and it'll pop right out. That kind of fits into place. This ab panel will fit right on top of that. And that is his upper body all done. By the way, gear walk mode, kids. You can get behind any figure that's got a gear walk mode, official or unofficial. Now, to do his legs are actually fairly easy. We're going to open up these panels in the back. We're going to extend out his feet, like so. We're going to rotate out this tire all the way. You want to kind of move the feet out as you do that. This will provide us clearance, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to poke our fingers in and we're going to push out this panel on the front of the leg right here. We're going to fold up these tabs on the knee, and now we're going to fold this panel all the way in till it sits flush with the inside of that. Your knees have to be in this position. Your foot has to be down, and the wheels have to be in their alt mode position to make that work. Now, with that in place, you can take these feet. And we're going to rotate them in like that. And then the legs are going to rotate. So basically what's going to happen is that these legs are going to bend a bit. I'm trying to remember though if they're going to want to bend at the upper joint or the lower joint. I think that works. So you're going to bend them at this lower knee joint and rotate them around. And there you basically have it. So this is all going to fit together like that with a series of pegs and tabs. There are pegs and tabs right here on the roof. You're going to want to make sure that those get put together. And then there's a series of pegs and tabs here on the bottom of the door. You're going to want to make sure those get put in. The front of this door is basically on a double hinge. You're going to want to make sure that that sits flush inside here. It's also going to help keep all of this together. Doesn't feel like I'm getting that. Well, let's take a look at this foot. So this is the point when somebody starts complaining, gosh, Zach, you should have been doing this. All right, looks like I need this to change. Which joint gets bent in there? Anyhow, this is the point where someone's going to be like, man, you've got all these like transformation errors and whatnot that make it into your videos and whatnot, and you don't do things right, and you could have edited out all that fumbling and whatnot. You're right, I could have. But, and this is a point that I will make as many times as I need to, is that when you edit, there is a certain degree of dishonesty, a certain degree of cover-up. And I'm not saying that this is like, you know, guarding any kind of like national secrets or whatnot. But there's just, I'm here to give you guys like an honest and completely straightforward review of a figure. And if you're you know, editing the transformation, not only does it, I mean, if I'm having difficulties, which by the way, if you're watching this right now, you'll see that I am having a bit of difficulty with this to get it all in the right position. If I'm having difficulties with a figure, I mean, that's something that you deserve to know. And if I'm not having difficulties with a figure, then that's also something that you deserve to know. And if I edit things out, like, I mean, there are people out there who are very good reviewers. Like, for example, Ben's Collectibles, excellent reviewer. He edits his reviews. And so you just watch and he's like, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and you do this, and it's done. And it takes like, you know, 2 minutes on video, but you have no idea. He could have been fumbling with that thing for half an hour, you know, and it could actually be just a nightmare to transform. And you wouldn't know it from watching the video because it's all been edited. Whereas you're watching this, if I'm having issues, you know it. You know what to look for. You know what's giving me problems. You know that this guy doesn't want to fit right. And this is, by the way, the biggest issue I've had with this alt mode is that I think that there's some secret code in how you put the knees, like the number of clicks you put into the upper knee joint and the lower knee joint. And I'm not sure exactly what that secret combination is. But that was legitimately the biggest part of fumbling with this figure, was getting that joint to all stick together. And if I were to mess with this, it would just pop right out again, I'm sure. This will fit in. This little bike thing will fit in right in the trunk where it's supposed to. There's a couple little, you can't really see it here, but there's a couple little slots in there, and it just kind of fits in like that. You can close it. He's got this beautiful blue finish on there. The red stripe applications are super crisp. There's even like the little lock in the handle, looking really nice. Like this alt mode. This alt mode looks fantastic, and I just messed it all up. It's got rubber tires, which I know that a lot of people like. I don't particularly care for them personally, but that's because I've had way too many instances of rubber tires self-destructing after a number of years, and not even a big number of years, unfortunately. It sits pretty flatly. If you feel some wobble in it, undoubtedly you've got one of your wheels misaligned, and so just go in and take a look at that. In the back, he does have a slot for one gun. He can stick that up there. There's no storage for this unless you want to throw it in with the bike, maybe. I don't know. That works. But yeah, he turns into the cute little sports car thingamajig, and he looks the part, and I think he looks it really good. This looks just like the G1 toy. It's fantastic. I like it. If I had any really care about the figure, I would get one, but it's not really my sort of thing right now. I collect weird stuff. But yeah, go ahead and hit up Matt on Titanonetoys Toys. See if he's got one, if this is what you're interested in. And I will catch you guys on the flip